Today, I'm opening up and fixing some forgotten slimes. Hit subscribe and let's get started. Okay, so by forgotten slimes, I basically mean slimes that I've bought and then just forgotten about, left in a pile, and then finally found them for this video. This one I ordered a while ago, and again, just completely forgot it existed, so I was excited to finally get into it. This was a dual tone slime, one side was blue and the other was light pink, and I'm not sure how it was separated at first. It came sealed, wrapped in plastic, so I removed that, and the little dome that was on top of the container too, with some charms in, which I think is pretty cool packaging. I was so excited to get this open, and the first thing I noticed was that it smelled really strongly of bubblegum. Now, if you are a fan of bubblegum, you would have loved this, but it was just so strong that it almost gave me a headache. I kind of thought that the divider was actually a part of the container, but it was just a piece of plastic separating the two. And when I tell you that the slime was so difficult to remove from this, I don't know what type of plastic it was, but certain plastics can stick to slime more, and this was definitely one of them. I almost couldn't get the pink slime fully off it. I managed to scrape off as much as I could, but there was still some left on it. Now, getting into the texture of these, they both had pretty much a similar texture, and it seemed to be this kind of quite thick but rubbery butter slime that was almost stretchy but ripped. It was quite strange because it almost felt underactivated and overactivated at the same time, and almost didn't really feel like it was made of glue and more like something like silicone. I was thinking it's likely to be a type of clay that I've not used, or a type of glue, or maybe it's just overactivated. I did notice that the light pink one was slightly softer, and I actually really like the color of this one, so if I had to choose one, I feel like it would be the pink. However, saying that, I still didn't really love the texture, so I knew that I wanted to change this up. Before I did though, I wanted to give it a chance by mixing the two together. Considering that the pink was slightly softer, it might help the blue. And I'm honestly not entirely sure it was even worth doing this at all, because as you can see, the colors were kind of even struggling to blend. So instead of tiring myself out, instead of just keeping mixing it, I decided to put it into a bowl and add some glue and vegetable glycerin. I don't use vegetable glycerin a ton, but I thought it would be good for this because it really helps soften slime up. It's actually what they put in soap, so if you have soap, it would do the same. Now, I mixed this around and mashed it with the spatula for a while, but it was not shifting. It wasn't budging at all, so I ended up just going in with my hands. This didn't feel great and was very sticky and kind of felt gross, but I knew it would be the only way to incorporate these ingredients into this really tough slime. And to be honest, it kind of just looked like cotton candy guts. It was kind of gross, but I did just have to keep mixing it, even though it looked like intestines. It did seem to be melting down, but it really did take me a long time to get the chunks out, but I just persisted, and it did form a somewhat slime. Now, I say somewhat slime because it had that strange weird texture where it almost felt underactivated but overactivated at the same time. I knew I needed to do something else to this to get a nicer texture. I'm not sure where this idea came from, but I did find this along with this slime, but I had an old bucket of this butter cloud slime that I've used in a previous video and thought it might be cool to try and fix a store-bought slime with another store-bought slime. Considering this butter cloud slime was nice, but it was literally just clay. I actually kind of forgot how nice this texture is. It's just so smooth. I mixed it into the slime and was kind of skeptical because sometimes clay can actually make slime go hard. I don't know why, but it's just the way it reacts, so I was very cautious with this, but I kept mixing it in and it seemed to be working, so I was positive. I kept mixing it, and because we'd added more ingredients, the bubblegum smell was actually a lot nicer and less strong, but more importantly, the texture was so much nicer. It was just like a butter slime, and I couldn't believe that that slime that was so hard and kind of weird feeling felt smooth again. I really did enjoy this texture. It was light and fluffy, and thankfully didn't have that kind of rubberiness that it once had. I decided to take a piece of this and put it into a fresh container just so I could kind of decorate it, swirl it around, and then add a little piece of white clay to kind of give it a bit of contrast. I didn't want to mix this in fully, so I just put it on top and then kind of swirled and mushed it around a little bit, and it kind of looked like a cloud. So I thought I'd run with this theme and add some rainbow sprinkles and these white sprinkles, along with a little bit of glitter. This was already looking so much nicer and so cute, but of course I had to top it with something else, so I added this cute cloud charm. I'm actually really surprised at how nice this turned out. I'm also shocked that the blue color is so strong, considering there were two different colors to start with, but I guess they kind of do mix together. I feel like even that tiny little bit of extra clay at the top improved the texture and made it even softer, and I'm really happy that this forgotten slime with not so great a texture is now definitely going to be remembered. So this next one I ordered months ago and never got round to trying it just because I didn't think it would be any good. It's meant to be a slime sand, and to be honest, I did not have any high expectations for this, so was kind of expecting it to be bad. As I was opening it up, I could kind of tell that the texture was very crumbly and not slime-like at all, and I had to double check to see if this was actually a slime or just a kinetic sand. I decided to pour the crumbly slime into a bowl just so it wouldn't make a mess on my table, and at this point I was so confused that this was advertised as a slime because it just didn't seem like one at first. Now I say at first because everything kind of changed when I started to play with it, and I was just blown away. This had to have one of the most unique textures of a slime I've ever felt. It felt literally like a cloud slime, but also like sand at the same time, and it didn't crumble apart like I was expecting it to. I mean, it would definitely break apart if I was playing with it too slowly, but I was really impressed by this. It almost felt like it was the cloud slime that had like 5 times the amount of normal snow in it, and it was just so mesmerizing to watch and just so satisfying to play with. I wasn't really stretching it because I didn't think it would be able to, but when I did, again, I was shocked because it worked and it drizzled like a cloud slime, even though this seemed just like sand to start with. I would love to know how they make this, whether they actually do put sand in it or if it's another type of fiber, but I was really happy with this. However, I was curious too. I wanted to know what would happen if I mixed in slime with it. Now, I didn't want to do the whole batch because I didn't know how this would turn out, so I just took 2 little tablespoons of it and mixed them together. At first, I thought it was going to be okay, but pretty soon after, I realized that it was not going to, and it literally just melted the slime down immediately, which I've never seen before. So I definitely wanted to just leave this as it was and didn't want to ruin it any further than this piece. But maybe this is going to be a new way I can fix some of the really hard slimes we get. Okay, so next up is this little container that just has some tape around it and there's clear slime in it. I'll be so honest with you guys right now, I have no idea where this came from, whether it was from Shein, Temu, Amazon, or I don't know where. So I had no expectations, but I was impressed with how clear it was and also how it wasn't melted considering I've had it for so long. I took it out of the container and I was kind of shocked that it was still one piece. I was worried that it had dried up, but it did feel quite soft and squishy. But that's about it. Whenever I try and stretch it or anything, it just fell apart and was not looking good. So instead of wasting any more time, it went into a bowl with some glycerin and some glue. I feel like with this one, I probably could have either just used the glue or the glycerin, not having them both together. But the slime was so tiny, I wanted to make it bigger, and it was also really tough, so I needed the glycerin to break it down quite quickly. It quickly became quite stringy, so it really did do its job, but the color of this was not appealing and kind of just looked a little bit dirty, so I decided to go in with a splash of dye. And by a splash of dye, I do mean a splash of dye. I know I can be quite heavy-handed with it sometimes and add too much, but I just added a drop. While this was still underactivated, I decided to add a ton of glitter to it. I found this beautiful kind of iridescent purple glitter and just mixed it in. Now, I really was debating whether I should add activator or not, but I ended up deciding to add just a little bit to it because it was still so sticky after mixing it for ages. This actually did come together relatively quickly. It was still quite stringy, but just kneading it with my hands got those out, and it became this really smooth, clear slime texture. This was so much nicer than the slime before. It was so stretchy, and I could finally make bubbles with it. But like clear slime does, it lost its clarity, so I put it into a container and let it sit for a few days. Now, this is it after only a few days of sitting, and I definitely feel like it would go clearer if I'd left it. But I'm impatient, and this was honestly good enough for me because now I could see the glitter in the clear slime and it was a much brighter shade of purple. I will say it did feel slightly sticky. It was easily fixed with a little bit of activator on my hands, but that did seem to melt down quite quickly, and I'm just maybe thinking it could have been because of the clear slime we added to start with. Either way, I was still happy with this, and it was definitely an improvement to what we had before. Well, I had so much fun testing and fixing some of these forgotten slimes, and I was honestly not expecting some of them to turn out so well. If you enjoyed this video, make sure to hit the thumbs up button, and if you want to see more videos like this in the future, make sure to hit subscribe. Until then, I'll see you guys in the next one.